Okay, we are forward again with the first part of our video. And again, we're going to be covering breathing, we're going to be covering crystals, and we're going to have a great time. Okay, so we do have our second model here. This is Carlos. And he's here with his companion, and we're going to get right into this. So first, we're going to talk about standing up breathing. Okay. So, what we're going to just talk about really briefly is whole body breathing. There's not much that I see in the breathing world that needs to start first beside this technique, because this technique gives the person the ability to actually see what breathing will do for the meditation, and it makes the meditation a lot more entertaining. Because of course many times people think of meditation as just sitting down somewhere and then there's nothing really going on, you're just sitting down there trying to clear your mind, but that's not exactly it. When you have your breathing in place, you can use your breathing techniques in order to get into altered states of consciousness. So the first thing that we're going to work on is we're going to work on posture, or exactly how to stand while you're breathing. What's most important here is for one to line themselves up with what you know is your pelvic bone here. This is your gauge to determine where the exact distance that your legs should be apart. Now notice, most people when standing comfortably sometimes turn their legs out, some people are even bow-legged, and some people do stand quite awkwardly. But in this case, you want to make sure that you're standing straight and your feet are straight and you're even with your hip bones. This becomes a technique that you can use in many instances, especially when you're washing dishes, and anytime you're standing in the bank, or anytime you're doing things that basically will have you in waiting, so you don't have to wait, you have opportunity to get your vibration up. And so, once again, as you see here, my feet are straight, and we're going to use Ginger here as a model so that we have an exact idea of what's going on. So because her pelvic bone is here, what I'm going to ask her to do is bring her feet in just a little bit to line more up with this bone. If you will go ahead and just slide your feet in a little bit for me, Ginger. Okay, and so that's a perfect posture. So the next thing is to make sure that you're not bending your knees too deep, or that you don't have your knees locked. This will not allow the actual circulation that you're going to need to come up and down from this side of the body to actually allow it to flow properly. So you're going to make sure your knees are not bent or locked, but kind of in a straight position. Now at this point, we're going to ask now that the hands be dropped. Now this is a relatively easy breathing exercise, this whole body breathing. So the first thing that I want to ask her to do is put her hands on the stomach. When you're practicing on this exercise first, in order to gain more concentration, what you want to do is you want to reverse the normal breathing of the human being. The normal human being breathes in the chest, because they're keeping all of their pressure here. So what it is one has to breathe in the stomach, and that's reversing the breathing. So what we're going to ask is, as Ginger takes her breath, that she is just conscious that she's actually raising her hands. Okay, so now that we have that breathing correct, now what we're going to do is we're going to release all pressure from the chest area. And to do this, one should simply drop their jaw. If they drop the weight from their jaw, they'll notice that the weight falls off the shoulders. So once again, you're just going to relax the body. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take 10 of these deep stomach breaths in order to get the feeling of what the breathing should feel like. Here we go. Okay, if you notice that this breathing technique will take one down in vibration, as far as allowing you to be a lot more calm, your vibration will be a lot more constant, and it will take the radical edge off your vibration. This will allow you then to begin to control your vibration so that you can bring your vibration up as you continue to accelerate from what we would just call the foundation. So, as we see here again, one is taking these breaths into the stomach. But to complete the whole idea of whole body breathing, I'm going to ask Ginger to stand over here. And there's actually something else that one has to think about doing that will enhance their breathing technique. And this is about a diaphragm pocket that's located here, that there's actually 3 pockets. And if you have someone helping you, you can ask them also to see if you're doing this correctly. So what we're going to ask Ginger to do is to, when she takes her normal breath in her stomach, to attempt to put air in this part of her back. So Ginger, I'm going to ask you to take 5 breaths, and we're going to act with your stomach, and you're going to imagine also that you're blowing this part of your back up where there's an air pocket here. Okay. I will let everyone know that this technique in itself is the key, that the body itself can blow up like an amphibian, something of this nature. And also the reason why the legs are turned inside was because there's, in your coccyx, if you have your legs turned this way, it will actually close the hole. If you have your legs turned straight, it actually opens it, and this is a small hole. In addition to that, these areas in the back, to begin to stretch out those pockets, you want to take it easy at first. But when those pockets begin to stretch out, they give you the ability to hold the breath longer. And these pockets are also responsible for pushing air into other parts of the lungs, other parts of the organs, in order to cause an altered experience, or the building of prana. So this is pretty much the technique for standing up. There's not much more to it. As you see, it's very simple. It does take practice in order to correct the direction of your breathing. And when we come right forward, we're going to show everyone how to do this while sitting down. We are forward once again, and this is dojo core. And we're breaking our way out of the cube. And we're going with the technique of breathing just from sitting down. This is very simple. There's only a couple things that need to be remembered here. While sitting down, waiting for whatever, you can be in an altered state of consciousness. Now, all we're working on here is that there's 2 bones in the butt. And as long as those bones are actually touching the bottom or base of whatever you're sitting on, that means the spine is straight. And so the only technique that you need to do here is the same thing. Notice the key is still this reverse breathing, allowing the air to come into the stomach. While sitting down, feet should be as straight as possible. Still keep it in mind this coccyx bone in between needs to be open somewhat. And you can actually feel when that opens sometimes. And that's pretty much it. So as you see, this exercise is very simple, but this whole body breathing is the key. It's something that one has to practice, but within the 3rd day, sometimes even the 1st day of practice, one can receive great results. Now, I'll also show you another technique. Ginger, if you go ahead and stand up for me. If you have someone that's in your vicinity and they're also learning the breathing itself, you may want to have them tap on your spine while you're doing the breathing. So if you can take someone and you can begin to tap on their spine like this while they're doing the breathing, it'll allow that fluid to go from the base of the spine all the way into the crown chakra a lot easier. And so that's all we have to show now, and when we come back, we will be talking about how to do this while laying down, something very simple, and then we'll go into placing the crystals. Okay, so I'm forward here with Carlos, and I wanted to cover the part about how to get the Kundalini fluid moving. If you happen to be in a position where you have 2 people that can generate the energy. So, Carlos is familiar with the breathing technique, so I'm going to ask him to assume the breathing position. he's personally going to have his hands on his stomach, taking those breaths that he's working on his reverse breathing. So, as he's breathing, what you're going to do is you could start with a person's base of their spine, since that's where the Kundalini is in its seat. And begin to work up while the person is taking their breathing. Very simple tap, very effective at getting the fluid in there. Okay, so that's what exactly we're talking about. You want to stay still and keep your breathing going. And that will get that fluid going in the person and allow them to experience that much more of a higher vibration. We are now going to do the laying down meditation. Now, of course, the key to this exercise is, of course, to breathe through the stomach. But there's something else that's important when you're laying down. Most people, while asleep, have the tendency to have their feet fall this way. Unfortunately, this is not going to cause the maximum level of breathing for the meditation while one is laying down. So while you're still awake, be conscious to make sure that your legs are still straight, just like they were when you were standing up, lined up with the pelvic bone. If you have the ability to brace your feet against something, or to put something here on the sides of your feet, then it will work out a lot better. So once again, we're going to be taking breaths through the stomach. And this is the easiest way to meditate. Once you do this, go to sleep 15 minutes beforehand and do these breathing exercises. What this will give you is the fuel that's necessary for you to go into that hyper world that we love so much and to remember more of your dreams. So as you see, one's legs are straight, hands are on the stomach to be sure that the mind cannot wander but to one thing, which is making sure that the hands are moving up and down. And what will happen is eventually your body, it doesn't take long to do this, will memorize this breathing pattern, and then it will do it while you're asleep. And this will cause reverse breathing to be a habit, and it will also give you the fuel that's necessary for you to remember your dreams properly. We are forward for one of my favorite parts, and that's, of course, the crystal meditation. This has been, what we can say, is a long time coming. Many people have asked about exactly where to place crystals, how to place crystals, what do you do? And so basically this, of course, is our makeshift bed here. And as you see, we have quite an array of crystals, and that tends to be how I keep my bed personally, is just with crystals everywhere because of that energy and that communication. Now, we talked about before how basically we didn't go with the color scheme of the chakra charts all the time, meaning that some crystals can be placed in other areas depending upon how you feel like you want to interface with those crystals. So we'll stick to the basic idea of where crystals are supposed to go here and now, but just keep in mind that I did say that. So, as this is a bed, one should, in hoping to get their crystal meditation in every single day, always keep in mind that you can actually sleep with your crystals. Other than that, you can go into an actual meditation that is designed for you to be using your crystals. So, what we have here is we have, of course, a darker crystal. And darker crystals are always associated with the root chakra, or at least the base. Now, understand that in theory of the body being a tree itself, this would of course be the root area, this would be the trunk area, these would be the branches, and this would be the fruit. So, this crystal of darker color would of course go down in this area. So you can even lay this on the floor, or not on the floor, but in the bed with you. You can also take these type of crystals and place them just in between the legs here, and or you can even push it further up, and then that will be your root chakra crystal. Now, as you see here, this is pyrite. Of course, pyrite is associated with fire, so we'll place that crystal here. So, as you begin to work up, you're placing these crystals. Well, actually, this crystal is more. Also, keep in mind that a lot of the crystals that you want to use are the crystals that are a lot more stronger and a lot more firm. Some of the crystals are a lot more softer, like selenite, but even selenite does really good in the bed. But some of these crystals that have small pieces and fragments that break off of them, you want to be careful about how exactly you use these crystals. And the best way is, of course, to put them inside of a bag, and then have that bag, and then place that bag itself on the chakra, like just a simple black velvet bag. Something like this. And then you can put the crystal inside of there. So, generally, I'm placing the crystals on the outside of Gingery's clothes for obvious reasons, but also keep in mind that when you're in the bed, you should put these underneath your t-shirt or your shirt, whatever you do wear at night. And then what you're capable of doing at that point is you're capable of having your shirt hold the crystals to your chest a lot longer, because of course it's okay for you to be able to lay on your back for a while, but most people are going to want to turn over. And then also when you're practicing your crystal meditation, you want to use the exact breathing exercise you were using in order for your breathing that was shown earlier today in the breathing videos. Here's why. When you're utilizing the breathing exercise where your stomach is getting bigger, if you notice that Gingery is now changing her breathing so that she's breathing through her stomach, you're actually pushing energy into the crystals. Understand the relationship between a human and a crystal is not for you to pull the crystal's energy. It's for you to cycle energy with the crystal. So this becomes the same relationship that we have with trees. We give the trees carbon dioxide, they give us oxygen. We have a certain pranic force that we can give to crystals. In turn, they can give us also their particular essences. So this is a symbiotic relationship. So as you see, we have several crystals here, and we can just continue to place them. But crystals such as your crown chakra crystal, as you see, we have a beautiful amethyst crystal here, which is clearly a crown chakra crystal. Even though I do use amethyst at times on my solar plexus, I've gotten great results with that. But you can take these crystals that you know are the colors of the crown chakra, and you can place them under the pillow. And that will give you the same effect. So, that pretty much concludes the crystal meditation. Of course, you'll have plenty of time to juggle the crystals around and see what works. You'll also be able to place crystals here on the crown chakra, which is something that you have to develop by what kind of crystal you originally buy. And I'll give an example here. This crystal in particular works perfect because it has a flat edge. So it actually placed right on the chakra. And while one, of course, is laying down, then they can easily balance that properly, versus another crystal that has more of a round surface will be a lot more difficult. In addition, of course, what will happen is as the night continues, you'll more than likely fall asleep. So a crystal may fall to the side of the bed, and you may even find yourself rolling over crystals. But in this case, you want to take the crystal, simply put it underneath your pillow while you're rolling over, and then in the morning you should have all your crystals underneath your pillow. And this will allow the essence from the crystal, communication, to be transmitted, of course, to your communication zone, which of course is in that hippocampus region, and all the extra nodes that we have there. And so that concludes the crystal and breathing exercises, which is something that we wanted to definitely get to you. We do have a lot more in store, and of course we're going to get a lot more detailed into many of these things. We're going to talk about mudras, we're going to talk about mantras and vibration. We're going to get into a lot of things as we continue our Outside of the Cube series. So we are here with our crystal family, and we just wanted to do a brief recap of some of the crystals that are actually here and what their actual purposes are. just from what I understand about crystals and the amount of information that I've been able to receive personally, not so much as what I've seen in the books, but what I've felt and what I've been communicating with, or communicating. First, we want to talk about the clear quartz, understanding that clear quartz is an amplification crystal. So that's why it's clear, it's not partial to any color. And so you can use this crystal, it's very good to place underneath your pillow in order for your thoughts or your manifestations, dreams, and things to be amplified. So notice here we have two crystals here. This is your standard cut. It's not double terminated. If you ever find a double terminated crystal like this, grab it. This means that this side actually looks like this side also. Very rare. And of course this is a communication crystal. It's shaped like in the hexagon shape. We have citrine, which is one of the only crystals that don't actually need to be cleansed, which is very important. This, they say you should keep around money in order to keep the negative magnetic situation away from the money itself, hindering the money. Amber here is very important. People browse by this all the time and think that it's, just because it's amber. Understand there's electricity can be made by using amber, and it's one of the only things that can actually be done. You rub amber against silk. And so back in the old days, they used to use amber to make electricity, but the most interesting part is if it can make electricity, it has energy. And so thus you can communicate with it. Even here we have a good friend, Mr. Moldavite, who's a meteorite. As you see, meteorites tend to like to hang by themselves because they're from space. So you tend to want to keep them away from the rest of the crystals at times, unless if they're having a good birthday party or something. And of course you have your amethyst crystal, which is definitely the crystal of this aeon. Amethyst is allowing people to get into high levels of communication, especially through the crown chakra. Placing this on the solar plexus and practicing the breathing techniques that we talked about today has produced brilliant results. As you see, amethyst crystal is Am, that's where we also get the name America, and it's heavily connected to that. Amethyst is the only crystal that, actually it is one of the crystals that were sold at the same price as diamonds before they discovered the deposits in Brazil. I'll say that again. Amethyst was sold at the same price as diamonds before they discovered the enormous deposits that have now been found in Brazil, and that of course dropped the price. Pyrite, as we see, pi meaning fire, pi still being the word or the root of the word from Pythagoras, which is about the golden mean, the golden ratio. Even the pentagram relates to all this, but what this is about fire. This, for the root chakra, is one of the most powerful crystals to get that Kundalini energy going. If you notice, in many cases, a lot of the pyrite crystals actually contain the pattern of a pentagram. Now, we're still investigating more. We found out that the actual mountains of Venus were covered with these stones, and in discovering more, we see in dark magic them drawing imperfect pentagrams. So there is still hope for Mr. Pentagram and what a perfected pentagram is, and but we definitely know what an upside down and distorted pentagram is, and that's of course what we're steering away from. So that will do for now. We have a couple things here still. We have a pendulum here that's made out of pure copper for those who use pendulums. Me personally, I use my mind as a pendulum. Some beautiful crystals with star clusters inside of them. And so, as of course we know, the crystal kingdom is just as vast as way more than we see here. But we want to thank everyone for viewing our program today outside of the Cube, Resistance TV. We want to thank Gendry and her husband Carlos for giving us the time that was necessary out of their schedule in order for them to have those breathing exercises demoed to everyone out there that's interested in seeing and getting involved. And so we want to say wholeness and balanced vibration to everyone, and giving all honor and all everything that we can give to the Most High.
Hold on. Please sit on your heels. Your hands are on your thighs, fingers spread. Incline forward slightly and focus at a point on the floor 6 inches in front of your knees. Extend your tongue and begin a panting breath over the extended tongue. Feel the natural rhythm of this breath. This is the first step in learning the breath of fire, a somewhat rapid, rhythmic breath, even on the in and out. Keep it very light. Think happy little puppy. See if you can transfer the breath to your nose as you straighten your spine, bringing the crown of the head directly over the heels. Keep your diaphragm relaxed so that your stomach can move by itself in rhythm with the breath. Remember, the real key to the breath of fire is to keep the upper abdomen, what we call the solar plexus, relaxed, and let the breath breathe you. Breath of fire is an important tool in Kundalini Yoga and will speed up the benefits of the exercises. It oxygenates the blood, helps the cells regenerate. It energizes and puts you in rhythm with yourself. Now inhale, relax the breath, come sitting cross-legged, and meditate.
My father